John was working hard on the most recent project that he had been given, sitting at his desk with his fingers moving over the keyboard. Above him, the light bulbs smiled, shining the room on the farm that made up his office with a cold, medical shine. He had always taken a lot of joy in his ability to deliver results and pay attention to detail. But something didn't feel really right today. A loss feeling came down into the back of his stomach as he went over the Excel sheet in front of him for what looked like 100 times. It was there, clear as day, an error in decision-making that, if ignored, could end up costing the business thousands of dollars. John noticed an increase in panic as he realized how serious his error was at the time. He moved his hands and reached for his desk phone, nervously dialing his boss's extension. John prepared himself to accept the impact of his mistake as the phone rang. He was fully aware that his career and reputation were in danger. "John, what can I do for you?" The clean, professional voice on the other end of the line spoke up. John felt his voice show his nervousness. "Sir, I need to speak with you about something," he said. "Dude, speak up." "I don't have all day," his supervisor jumped back. John used all his remaining strength to explain his error and what effects it may have caused for the company. His supervisor remained silent as he listened, the rejection clear even over the phone. After John had finished his sentence, there was a long silence before his boss answered. "Yes, I see. All right, John. I thank you for alerting me to this. I'll handle things from this point on." John felt just like the floor had fallen between him when the line was dead. Nothing would have prepared him for what came next. He had expected a warning, maybe even a strong warning. His supervisor showed up at his room in a matter of minutes, his face roaring. "John, it's unbelievable that you allowed something like this to go unnoticed. Not only has the company's reputation been harmed, but the entire project is now at risk. I'm depending on you to do better." The words of his boss were echoing in his ears, and John experienced a wave of shame. A single error cast doubt on all the years of hard work he had put in to gain the respect of his superiors and colleagues. He had to consume a pill that was bitter and made his mouth taste acidic. John was feeling shame on his face as his boss went on insulting him in front of his colleagues. All he wanted was to disappear into the floor and away from the bright light of judgment that seemed to follow him everywhere. However, he was aware that fleeing was not an option. No matter whatever the results of his actions were likely to be, he had to accept them. John packed up his things and left the office with a heavy heart, his head set low. No matter how hard he tried, he knew that he would never be able to get over the judgment that was related to his error. And he made a promise to himself as he walked outside into the cool evening air. He would stop at nothing to show his value and show the world that he was more than the sum of his mistakes. John went down onto the old couch in his small apartment by himself, the day's events playing over and over in his head like a broken record. The feeling of failure he carried around with him all the time was like a heavy shield, pulling him down with each breath he took. Their strong, bright lights now seemed to be making fun of him from above, creating long shadows that performed along the walls. John was lost in thought as he tried to figure out what had happened and just looked at them. He had been working for years, putting blood, sweat, and tears into his work, as he moved up the corporate career ladder one step at a time. In his search for success, he had given up many evenings and weekends, skipping out on social occasions and family get-togethers. And it had all become apart around him in the space of just one look. John was thinking where everything had gone wrong as he sat in the poorly lit room. Had he grown too conditioned to his routine, too relaxed? Or was he just the result of a situation beyond his control, caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? His mind was filled with questions, challenging him with their unclear answers. But even with his best efforts, John was unable to find comfort in the unknown. He was limited to facing the difficult truth of his situation and figuring out how to move forward. John breathed in heavily and reached for his laptop, decided to forget the day's events and concentrate on the future. He refused to allow the past to define who he was, even when he knew he was unable to change it. He was not going to allow something to stop him from looking for his goals, because there was still work to be done and dreams to be fulfilled. John believed something of hope started inside him as he entered the night, the darkness outside slowly giving way to the kind glow of the sunrise. He realized it was a small, weak flame, but it was enough to boost his belief and push him forward. Following his anger and frustration, John put his energy into his work and attempted success continually in the days that came. He was excited about new challenges, wanting to show everyone, including himself, that he was a great man. And as he noticed his efforts displaying fruit, one modest victory at a time, John started to think that possibly the biggest error of his life might prove to be the greatest thing that had ever happened to him. John had a strong will to succeed, even with any challenges, and this motivation increased with every day that went by. He set out on his journey of self-discovery, exploring new possibilities and welcoming the unknown with open arms, no longer ready to accept everything as it was. John renewed a long-asleep passion for innovative thinking and creativity as he involved himself additionally in the world of business ownership. Released from the chains of corporate paperwork, he was motivated by the countless opportunities that were in front of him, each one serving as a first step toward achievement. John entered his new try with a lifelong willpower, carrying only a dream and a lifelong commitment to excellence. He worked long hours and had restless nights as he carefully crafted his future vision by looking over business plans and market analyses. John faced numerous challenges, but remained relaxed, finding comfort in his understanding that each challenge was only another step toward success. His confidence increased with each challenge he faced, and finally, he stood strong and constant in the face of difficulties. However, even as he worked to create his own empire from the ground up, John suffered from ongoing doubts that stayed with him. What if his end result was to fail? What if everything he had done was a waste of time and energy? John suffered from endless inquiries that appeared to be ghosts from his past, but he refused to open up. He was aware that there was never a guarantee of success, but he was also aware that giving up on something was the only way to fail completely. That's why John continued, identified to create his own path in a world that previously appeared to be unfair, burning with an unfamiliar feeling of purpose in his heart. He noticed a ray of hope among the darkness of doubt, an idea of desire that had the opportunity to grow into something unbelievable. As John's independent journey developed, he could not help but be pulled back to the multinational corporation where he had worked as an employee just years before. He returned, however, not as a dependent, but more like a powerful force to be believed in, a leader to himself. Upon going into the well-known doors of the company, John experienced a wave of emotions mixed with a fresh feeling of success. The feelings of lacking and self-doubt that had kept him in the past had gone away, leaving behind a strong confidence in his own abilities. John noticed how much had changed in the rooms since he had last visited as he made his way down the busy pathways. Thanks in large part to his own hands' constant efforts, where there used to be confusion and dispute, there is now peace and purpose. The face of his former boss, the same man who had once made fun of and insulted him in front of his colleagues, was the one that stood out above the others in the sea of well-known faces. However, John felt respect for his part in choosing his own fate, rather than even a color of anger as he looked upon him now. Smiling, John stepped forward to say hello to his previous mentor, a silent acceptance of thankfulness for the man who had accidentally inspired him to achieve excellence. However short their meeting was, it was a moving indication of how far John had come since the day that he had given up on everything. John noticed a feeling of the end wash over him as he left the company for the last time, knowing that he had finally put away those who were part of his past. In returning to the starting point of his journey, he realized how much he had grown up, as well as how much he had changed. John was also aware that the best was yet to come, because he was ready to take advantage of all the opportunities that were in front of him and take on each challenge he faced to become stronger and more durable. John's small company became more successful every day, surpassing his crazy expectations with respect to its reach. However, as his career took off, his goals also did, and he set himself ambitious goals, buying the same business that started his career. John was so focused on understanding his dream that he spent everything he had, applying all the connections he had built over the years and using all of his resources. The benefits of all of the challenges and experiments that were in advance, he remained relaxed, his undying dedication pushing him forward without stopping. As talks went on, John realized that he and the company's present owners were engaged in a struggle for control, with both sides ready to give up anything in their search for power. However, John saw opportunity where others saw only impassable challenges, and his creative thinking and constant will were his greatest assets in the struggle for power. Then, following months of nervous talks, the finalization of a purchase agreement that would permanently change John's life path marked the start of the turning point. He felt an increase in emotion as he signed the paper, mixed with excitement and an understanding of what was ahead. John understood that, even with his hard-earned victory, the real work was still in front of him, and that, along with great responsibility, ownership also brought with it the chance to shape the future in his own image. And he thought a fresh sense of purpose was racing through his entire body as he looked out over the huge area of his new field, bringing him one step closer to his goal in life. John quickly realized that the challenges he faced were more than he had ever expected, as he became used to his new position as the owner of the business he had previously worked for. He made every effort to fit in well at his new job, but he kept running into more and more difficult problems. Gaining the respect and trust of the company's staff, many of whom saw him with distrust and suspicion, was one of John's biggest challenges. They found it difficult to accept John's leadership because they were used to an environment where authority was unquestionable. They think of John as an outsider who didn't have the knowledge and experience needed to guide them. John decided to prove himself by working hard and getting involved in all aspects of the business's operations, refusing to allow their reservations to stop him. He worked hard to gain a deeper understanding of the company from the factory floor to the boardroom, winning the respect of those around him for his loyalty and dedication. However, John had to change with the times in a market that was constantly changing, while also trying to win over the hearts and minds of the company's staff. This was maybe a bigger challenge than the others. Standing still was not an option for him, not with competitors chasing him and technology transforming the market. John made a number of brave efforts to upgrade the business's operations and set it up for long-term success, all motivated by his solid search for excellence. In an effort to stay ahead of the curve, he did everything from investing in state-of-the-art technology to encouraging a culture of creativity and innovation. Even so, John was unable to get rid of the uneasy feeling that followed him around, an ongoing feeling that his problems were not yet over. He also knew that the road in front would be dangerous, but also full of opportunities for those who were brave enough to take advantage of them, as he looked out over the future. One of the biggest difficulties of John's career was in front of him as he went through the challenging waters of business ownership. The company was on its way to bankruptcy. John realized that the company needed to make a quick decision to turn things around because revenues were falling and expenses were rising. He brought his team together and built a plan of action to weather the storm by taking on the strength and determination that had worked well for him in the past. First things first, the business needed to tighten its belt, reducing unnecessary expenditures and simplifying processes wherever it could. John worked non-stop to stop the losses and protect the company's decreasing assets, even to the point of reorganizing departments and delaying non-essential projects. John was aware that, while cost-cutting measures were important to keep the business going in the short term, they would not be enough to ensure its long-term survival. He knew that in order to make the business stand up better to future economic crises, it would be necessary to expand its product line and find fresh sources of income. Growing the company's product line and entering new markets were the goals of a number of strategic moves that John made using his experience and knowledge. In an attempt to guarantee the company's future, he went above and beyond any effort, from creating innovative new goods to creating partnerships with other leaders in the field. But even with his greatest efforts, there was still a lot of doubt about the future, and the difficulties appears to get harder every day. John, however, was constant in his commitment and found comfort in the knowledge that he was not the only one facing this difficult time. John trusted his team to help him get through the storm, knowing that their knowledge and dedication would get the business through its worst moments. And even though the road ahead would be long and difficult, he knew that nothing could stop them as long as they remained together. Following the financial crisis, John discovered himself observing the remains of his once successful company. The battle scars were still visible and became a constant reminder of the challenges that the company had overcome, even after they had survived the worst of the situation. John complained about the losses and failures, but he refused to give up. Rather, he viewed the garbage as a chance for renewal and rebirth from the garbage, similar to the famous firebird coming from the flames. John strongly set out to reconstruct the company from beginning to end up, utilizing the knowledge gained from past challenges and failures. The days of confidence and acceptance were over, and in their place came a more flexible and smaller company that was prepared to take on any challenges that were in the future. However, John was aware that success would require more than just dedication and consistent effort, because reconstruction would not be simple. It would also call for creativity and a desire to adapt, qualities that had helped him in the past and would help him in the future. John accepted an innovative new vision for the company's future and set goals for the future, avoiding the limits of past experiences. He took on any effort to set up the business for long-term success, from making investments in state-of-the-art technology to encouraging an open and creative culture. And his efforts started to pay off slowly but regularly. Old damage started to heal, and new opportunities presented themselves as the business recovered its place in the market. John could feel a firebird rising inside him every day, rising from the ashes of tragedy and rising towards the sun once again. The road ahead was sure to be difficult, but John came towards it with fresh resolve and confidence, knowing that whatever came in his way, he would overcome it with the same courage, determination, and complete trust in the power of human beings that he had always had. John found himself thinking back on his journey to this point as his efforts to rebuild the company started to pay off. As he sat in his office, surrounded by the accessories of success, he was unable to help but be happy with his progress. But even with the joy and acceptance, John was unable to get rid of the feeling that something was missing. Even with his successful business, he was unable to overcome the regret and shame that came with him from the day he quit his previous job. John decided to say sorry to his former colleagues for his past mistakes, but he did so with a heavy heart. John was committed to making things right. However, it wasn't simple, and the effects of the past were still there. John was surprised to find that his previous boss was ready to put the past behind him, accepting the changes that he had gone through and the progress he had achieved in both his personal and career circles. Together, they talked about previous times and exchanged stories of successes and challenges, finding common ground where there had only been dislike before. As John believed in forgiveness, he came to the view that true sanctification came from the connections and bridges we created with people around us, not from success or luck. He had been looking for peace and closure, and he had found it in asking for mercy. John went back to his company with a fresh sense of purpose and more ambition than before to change the world. He was no longer just focused on making money. Rather, he tried to improve the lives of those who were poorer by using his resources and influence. John was also aware that no matter what challenges were in his way, he would meet them directly with strength and moral integrity, confident that, for those who allowed themselves to go after it, A chance was not only a possibility, but also a reality. At last, the day had come. Now the proud owner and architect of his company's future, John took charge of the company he had once worked for. His long and difficult journey from employee to business owner was filled with challenges and failures, as well as successes and victories that have shaped him into the person he is today. John was unable to avoid feeling happy and proud of everything he had achieved as he looked out over the busy offices and corridors. However, he couldn't get free of the feeling of humility that faced him during the celebrations and ceremony, helping as a reminder of the path that brought him here. John stopped thinking about the lessons he had learned while surrounded by old and new colleagues, friends, and family. He had gone through a storm and come out stronger and wiser than ever, having gone from a state of sadness to the peaks of success. Even in the middle of the celebration, John realized that his journey was far from over. He was resolved to take advantage of the knowledge and experience he gained along the way, to meet the challenges and opportunities that came with every new day. John was filled with excitement for what was ahead as the parties took long into the night. After gaining control over the company, he was aware of the limitless opportunities ahead of him and the belief that anything was achievable with careful planning, willpower, and a little bit of good luck. John realized he was in the right place, surrounded by the people he loved and engaged in work he was passionate about, as he looked out over the city skyline. In the end, the journey itself and the lessons discovered along the way had more value than the final destination.